Insight. This very day we actually welcoming on the Insight where we're talking about politics and taxes. Well, tonight we look and delve deeply into the issues surrounding politics, and of course as we delve deeply to elaborate through different stakeholders who are actually with me on the Insight tonight. Well, opposition leader Raila Odinga, who has branded President Ruto's government illegitimate and demanded its resignation, will continue on with planned a series of meetings nationwide that actually will culminate in the national convention in Nairobi, where the Azimio la Umoja and Kenya Coalition Party will take a final stand on their demand to President William Ruto for his Kenya Kwanza government. Mr. Odinga is protesting against the ongoing plans to appoint new electoral commissioners, claiming the government is laying groundwork to rig the next general elections in 2027. While Raila claims the meetings are because of electoral injustices and high cost of living, while the government through its leaders are seemingly reading a different script altogether. One of the leaders of the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, said something hitting on the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, saying that the Kenya Kwanza administration will not be intimidated to ease the pause to rein in on individuals accused of tax evasion, linking the ongoing public meeting to tax evasion. These and many other issues are going to be discussed on the Insight tonight, deliberately for you to get to understand them even better and more better. With me, of course, are three guests who are going to help me in this discussion. My first guest is Odue Kennedy. Odue Kennedy, welcome. He's a political economist. Odue Kennedy is joining me on the Insight tonight for this conversation. Thank you so much for finding time for this conversation, Mr. Odue. And of course, we also have Mr. Eric Naibei, who's an advocate of the High Court. Mr. Eric Naibei is an advocate of the High Court, is also joining us for this conversation. Then the far right, we have Mr. David Oyola, who is a political scientist. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on this conversation. And we're starting the conversation immediately, and I will start with you, Mr. Odue Kennedy. Well, we're talking about the opposition and, of course, the government, which are seemingly reading from different script. When we talk about the opposition holding meetings and rallies, talking about electoral injustices, and of course, they are talking about high cost of living, high punitive taxes, and that is the reason for them holding these rallies. The government, through its leaders, we have seen the president himself, we've seen the deputy president, and even Kimani Ichung'wah, and even Cherargei. These are Kenya Kwanza leaders. According to them, these rallies have been sponsored by people who want to evade taxes. Well, my question tonight, all these political hullabaloos, what exactly are they about? Are they about tax evasion, or are they about the electoral injustices and punitive taxes that actually the opposition are talking about, according to you?
Thank you very much. And I think this being my first show here, I would like to tell our viewers, Happy New Year in arrears. Okay. And I think my opinion on that is that the rallies have nothing to do with electoral injustices. Because if they were about electoral injustices, the person who is leading the rallies has been in government for the past 4 years. You cannot be in government for 4 years and then cry foul. Because it does not matter what happened on that day of the election. When you're in government, it's your job to understand the needs of the people, look at the systems, especially for the man of the former prime minister. He's a man who understands the system, he's been a victim. So for me, what I will say is that if you want to understand best what is happening in Kenya today, you look at who is Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga is a product of what I would say, a product of the chaos in the system. All through his life, you realize that his political highs have been consequenced by the dysfunctionalities in the system. The issue of taxes, you need to ask yourself, are there people who have been evading taxes? Yes. The other day, Group MD for NCB admitted that in 2019 they were exempted from 350. Actually, it was around 400 million of tax. So you ask yourself, why should a company that makes 39 billion, 36 billion in income be exempted from tax when someone who earns 10,000 pays taxes? That is the question we need to ask. We look at the system that we have today and you realize that it has been more inclined towards favoring the owners of the system, as we call them. So this chaos, yes, there might be some issues. Yes, there are those who are trying to avoid those things, but I believe we have laws that can take care of those things. My opinion is that if you look at Raila's history, whenever he loses elections, the first thing his focus is on is to seek relevance. Through the seeking of relevance, that's when he is able to raise the stakes to a point where he's invited onto the table. The unfortunate thing is that the Right Honorable, despite his status and everything, he has a tendency of inviting Kenyans into his wars for his own personal benefit.
Okay. But
in 2001,
yes,
he joined KANU, and then what was themed as a sort of cooperation, unity and stuff like that. Around the same time, that's when the controversial molasses transaction was completed. In 2017, in 2007, we know what happened and how he got his position. In 2017, we know the chaos that led to the handshake. Unfortunately, whenever he will complain about the system when he's outside, but when he goes in, he keeps quiet. He will never speak about the injustices. Because I cannot, if the electoral processes were unfair this election, and I joined that government, my objective will be to fix the problems that mess me up. Unfortunately, we have people who are fighting for their own personal interests. I want to mention something Kenyans will see it as very petty. The Right Honorable on one side, Raila Odinga, is claiming not to recognize Ruto's government, but the government of William Ruto is the one that put the final signature that recommended his daughter Winnie Odinga to Yala. It's not ODM that put the final signature that appointed Winnie. So we are looking at a situation where there are people who want to use, who want to create problems, and they want to look like saviors. Do we have problems in Kenya? Yes. Are people suffering? Yes. But are chaos the solution? No. You look at the economic impact of it. As a political economist, I try to link the relationship between politics and the economy. You look at Jacaranda, how many businesses were stalled on that day? The people who are coming there, how much value would they have done if they had sat somewhere or done something meaningful? Yes, people are idle because they are jobless. But sometimes, as a young person, I'm not employed as a person. But when I wake up, I feel like I always have something that I can do. So I think for me, I believe, especially for someone with that experience and surrounded with such high caliber of lawyers and professionals, I believe there are better channels of challenging the government. I will appreciate what he's doing if ODM as a
generally,
party...
when you look at these specific rallies that actually are ongoing, what do you make of them? Are they to actually to make the government address these issues that they're talking about, the electoral injustices, punitive taxes, amongst many other issues? Or do you think it is there's an ulterior motive for this, which in this case, evasion of taxes?
I'm not a lawyer, but I believe from basic understanding of the law, there are three arms of government. We have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, which are supposed to operate independently, but in service of each other. If the Right Honorable was serious about solving the issues affecting Kenyans.
Yes, I'll give you a chance, and of course you've made your point so clear. Let me bring in Mr. David Oyola. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us on the Insight tonight as we continue delving deeply into this topic about politics and taxation. And I just want to pose the same question to you about the ongoing public rallies planned by the Azimio. The government actually thinks that it is malice. It's actually a disturbance to make actually, they have believed that the opposition leader Raila Odinga wants a handshake, and now they're claiming that they are actually they've been sponsored by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta so that they can evade taxes. Is this the ulterior motive for opposition Azimio to hold these rallies, or what do you make of this in your perspective?
Thank you so much, and I would like to greet all the viewers wherever they are. I'm up to make it clear that I'm also a Christian.
Yes.
And I'm a sinner saved by grace. This is a Christian station, so we have to recognize the power of Almighty. The second thing, on the question that you posted,
Yes.
I will agree with you and I will disagree at the same time. Number one, Raila Odinga and his brigade are politicians. That is what politicians can rightfully do. We can't expect them to go to church and begin holding Bibles and preaching, or getting into offices of economies and begin managing the country. It is not possible. We have a government in office. We expect them to work. They have a budget. There are taxes where they are collecting from us. There is money that they are spending, and the least we can expect from them is to work. Raila Odinga, these allegations or an imagination that there could be somebody funding Azimio rallies. I'm looking at the rallies and I'm asking myself, what is there to be funded? If you ask me, what exactly is there to be funded? Fuels for the Prados that carries Baba to the rallies, or what is that? Because there's no food, there is no tent. What exactly is there to be funded? Booking a venue is very cheaper because it's a public ground. It is very cheap. I don't know exactly, I don't know what is this thing called funding the rallies, because I'm trying to see what exactly is being funded out of the rallies, and I cannot be able to put a hand on it. And number three, Baba's been in politics of mobilization and rallies from 80s to now. So why are we surprised now that this is the only time it's being funded? Why didn't we say the same in 1992 when they were fighting they're called the second liberators together with other politicians? Why didn't we say they were being financed by somebody else? Why didn't we say that it was being financed when they were talking about disagreeing with Kibaki during the time of first constitutional amendment of 2005? Yes. And why don't we say that it was being funded even 2010? All through. Why is this politics of financing coming up? To me, it is a misplaced strategy. It is only a strategy, but it is not a tact, because it cannot bear fruit. Nobody really cares whether Raila is being funded, whether Ruto is being funded, or whoever is being funded. As it is today, what I started with, we have a government in office, and every Kenyan expects them to lower the cost of living down. Whether Raila does his politics, whether he does not do his politics, people expect that the country gets better economically. When you hold a rally, there's another economy that you create. For us who are hustlers who have done hawking here and there in this town, we know very well that any gathering of citizens, it is an opportunity to make money. That is where you can sell your njugu, that is when you can sell a few juice and biscuits and all those kind of things, and even maize, mendi choma, mendi boil. You get it? And therefore, I want Raila to organize more rallies. We need more rallies so that we mobilize the society, to come at a particular center. I will ask people to take that one as an advantage to sell our products that we have. You look for biscuits, go and sell in those rallies. Look for whatever it is, go and sell. Go and find women, wives there. Go and find husbands in those rallies. It is just like a gathering of a church crusade. We need more crusades so that the gospel of God can spread. And therefore, Raila also need more rallies to mobilize people politically. These rallies, people can despise them to date. But I can assure you, if Raila can decide today that he goes silent, you can see the kind of evil a government can do. When the society begin becoming complacent, that they really don't care about what is going on in their country, that is when we begin to create dictators in office. People do things that do not reach us. They're doing it from one office to the next office. You don't see them. And therefore, we need people who sensitize us, they mobilize us, they tell us what is happening, whether it is true or not. It acts as a deterrence against any dictatorship or any tendency of misusing public office. Because if I am serving as president, I will be so sure that these rallies, if I do something and they get wind of it, I will have to pay with my own skin. And therefore, the only thing I can encourage Baba to continue doing, they should mobilize us more. In fact, we need more rallies, more. Almost 3 a day at different locations.
But Mr. Yola, when you get deeply into the issue, there are these two people who are reading from, two groups who are reading from different scripts. That is the government and the opposition. And the issue of the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta comes in, and that is funding the rally because of tax evasion. What do you make of this tax evasion and politics? Because there is a spat between the side of Kenya Kwanza and of course the Azimio, those supporting Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. What do you think about it?
I am trying to see whether it is only President Uhuru Kenyatta that is evading taxes. I don't know who in this country does not evade taxes, because if you ask me, even those leaders who are in government, they are driving very big cars. They have got very serious asset bases. You found the other day when ministers were being vetted, they were saying some of them are 800 something, some of them 1 billion, some of them 300 something, but we know them. We ask ourselves, this income, this worth of net worth that they have, how many, if you compare it vis-a-vis the tax returns, does it really make sense? It really does not make sense. There is what is called tax evasion, and there is what is called tax avoidance. There is one that is not illegal. I suspect it is tax evasion. The Wakili here will explain to us. You know, he will explain to us. I don't know whether he's got a grasp of it, but I know with time we will do a bit of research and find out. There is tax avoidance and there is tax evasion. They are two different things. One is not illegal, one is illegal. So we have to find out whether President Uhuru avoided paying tax or he evaded paying tax. Evasion, tax evasion is not illegal, I can tell you. For example, what Airtel, through the growth of the Airtel, I will use it as an example because there's a time central bank complained. So I will it's something of a public consumption. I will list it. When it moved from Zain to Celtel, it moved from Celtel to Zain, from Zain to you're not you.
Airtel.
To Airtel, and now it is?
It was first Cancel.
It was first Cancel, then Celtel, then Zain, then Airtel. It kept on changing the name after every 5 years. According to the law, any multinational that want to invest here, Wakili will explain if I'm wrong, is always given a tax. Is it called a tax holiday? Is it some? There's a period they are left without paying tax so that they can establish. And if that period elapses, they wanaanza kulipa tax. So what Cancel did before they went to Celtel is that upon 5 years break, when they were supposed to begin paying taxes, some investors came and bought it, and it started as a new company in the name of Celtel. Celtel never paid tax until the time it was getting into Zain. Until Central Bank had to complain that this, even though it is not illegal, but it's tax evasion, they're evading paying taxes, but it is not morally right. That is when at least now there's a lot of stability. It has worked now. Airtel has now worked for more than 5 years. Otherwise, the previous brands were not exceeding 5 years. If you look at their changing times, and therefore, President Uhuru, whether he's paying tax, whether he does not pay tax, Mwananchi does not really want to care about all these things because I don't know, Wakili. Well, for you to really, I will ask you.
You get to answer that more. But let me just get to you, Mr. Naibei, even as you get to answer the question that he actually raised between the tax evasion and which is illegal and which one is not illegal. There's also a very pertinent question actually that rises, that Senator Cherargei raised, and that is about the estate duty, which actually is an act, therefore meaning it is a law that exempted Presidents Jomo Kenyatta and Daniel Arap Moi from it exempted them from paying taxes as they passed on or handed over the inheritance from themselves to their generations. And he was requesting, and actually he wanted the very act to be repealed. What is happening, if at all President Uhuru Kenyatta is evading taxes? Now, on what basis? Is it because of the Estate Act duty? And generally, what do you think about all these hulabaloo, the political hulabaloo, even as you get to answer the question that was raised by David?
Thank you very much, Eugene. It is always a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad to have these two great gentlemen and to share this platform today. so much has been said about taxes for the last 2 weeks, but what my brief comment would be is, first of all, of course, nobody should be exempted from paying tax, whether it is by law or whether it is legal or illegal. All of us should pay taxes as a matter of public interest and as a matter of principle. What has been happening regarding President Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't, first of all, associate myself with the view that these rallies are being sponsored by him, mainly because he's trying to avoid the responsibility of paying taxes. I clearly don't see the link between the rallies and him resisting to pay taxes. Given that if he has not been paying taxes for the last 10 years, as we are told, nothing stops the government from taking appropriate measures. And if the position is that the government has just started cracking the whip, maybe there are notices that KRA has issued to him to pay taxes, and in reaction to that, now the rallies are coming, we would say that maybe there is a link. But clearly, there is no connection between the rallies and him failing to pay taxes. The issue of taxes is something that I think it is in public interest. All of us should pay. If the president has not been paying taxes during the pendency of his reign, he should be able to be held accountable. And I've heard my brother say that he might have been exempted, or rather, he might have evaded paying taxes but not avoided. Whether he did what Kensel, Airtel and Zin has been doing or not, is not something that is something that we take pride in, because as a president, you lead by example. And there is no direct illustration on how this president, the former president, has been evading taxes that would actually qualify as tax evasion the way my brother explains. Because what we are being told is that NCBA, where the president has a large stake, has had a previous instance where it has benefited from being exempted by the government that he led. I think that is wrong. That should not have happened. And if the president has been using such methods, using his authority to influence the Ministry of Finance or the Treasury to exempt himself or to exempt companies associated with him, that is not right. It may be illegal, it may be legal, like he did it in a legal way, but it is not morally right, and it is not something that we would want to encourage. As to the rallies, I believe that it is good to have a vibrant opposition that can hold government accountable. But to the extent that these rallies are being held with the intention of inciting citizens not to pay taxes or not to pay loans, not to pay back these hustler fund loans, that is also wrong. If the rallies are meant to hold the government accountable, there is a message that Raila Odinga and the team should be communicating to the public. Not saying that we are not recognizing the government, because whether Raila Odinga recognizes this government or not, this government is there legally. It has been, it went through the entire process of the electoral cycle until the Supreme Court validated it. So whether he recognizes it or not, that should not be the issue. And I believe that the moment these rallies was the content of the rallies, the message that is being presented in the rallies started changing from trying to hold the government accountable for specific issues to now saying that we are not recognizing this government entirely. I think that is where the notion that they are being sponsored comes in. Because why would you want to create anarchy or to create chaos?
We are coming much more on that issue about taxation. Of course, there is an issue that is currently happening in the political front, and we're asking whether there is now the new war front, even between Uhuru and Ruto, as we had seen earlier in the previous regime, where they had some fight. Well, we're going for a very quick short break, but of course we're coming back with much more on this issue. Well, stay with us.
Na kukaribisha tena katika makao makuu yako katika ulimwengu wa michezo.
Yoga is not a sport. Yoga is actually a way of life.
Ukiona FIFA inaingilia kati, it means that the FIFA rules have been violated.
From day one akiingia kwa akademi yako, unamwambia masomo na talent lazima ziende. The moment nasikia masomo imeenda chini, hata time out. Hata in time out kwa football na kando.
Wanawake ni wengi actually mpaka saa hizi tumekaa ni kama tumekuwa wanawake wamekuwa wengi kuliko wanaume. Kuna wale ambao ni artistic. Yes, wanapenda mambo ya kuigiza.
I am coded to look for solutions.
You limit yourself, not the sport doesn't limit you.
We say a dedicated women only show that focuses only on women.
Welcome to Mahanaim International High School. Are you worried about the character of your child? Mahanaim is the best Christian and character building school and offer British National Curriculum, IGCSE O-Level and GCE A-Level and mixed day and boarding school. For more inquiry, call 0710 111 333.
Information is power, so is knowledge. It is a dynamic world that we live in, and we seek a source that will inform us in every change in innovation and all current happenings.
We are here to sound a warning.
Here at GBS TV, we deliver exactly that. Chronologically, with an additive of entertainment and ear-catching conversations that will change your perspective of tomorrow.
That's the opposition leader, Bobby Wine. He actually tweeted,
War is a very expensive business.
We are a team of professionals, from well-esteemed camera experts to directors, field reporters and anchors.
A society without a watchdog.
We will be updating you on matters economy.
I am Sete Emmanuel, and this is GBS.
5 minutes remaining.
GBS TV now brings you news at 9.
Welcome back to the Insight. 21144 is our SMS line at GBS TV Africa at Eugene Chinkwach, where you get to, of course, converse with us, get to delve into a conversation with us as we continue talking about the tax controversy. And as we continue talking about this issue, well, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, as he waded into this tax controversy issue, insisted that the government is non-negotiable about paying or not paying taxes, and actually he said that the government, President Ruto's government, is so keen on developing the country through the resources that have been accumulated from the taxes. And this actually begs the question that since the hustler budget is very ambitious, that is President William Ruto's budget is kind of ambitious because he has introduced other issues like hustler fund, which were not there initially. And yet they say that all these they want to do through using the taxes. And my question actually is that even as Kenyans continue to cry over the rise of taxation and the high cost of living, is it sustainable? Can we use specifically taxes to even develop this country, only taxes to develop this country alone? Let me start with you, Mr. Due.
Is it possible? Yes. Why not?
Is it viable, actually?
It's both possible
at this
viable.
moment, because Kenyans are actually even crying of the high cost of living.
There was an admission. To answer that question, we need to remember that there was an admission by Uhuru Kenyatta, the president, that under his supervision, someone goes home with 2 billion. And I once raised that issue that if you're in charge of something and it gets lost, either you're the one who stole it or someone stole it on your behalf so that you can share.
Okay.
So that is 730 billion in a year. Our biggest challenge as a country has not been about resources. We have resources. Our biggest challenge has been having a prudent leadership that can then be able to utilize those resources prudently for the benefit of the citizens.
Do you have that government?
We have that government, I believe so, and that's why they are jitters. That's why we are bringing out some of the wounds that we had covered. Look at the issue of tax. All along, and when you talk about tax evasion, it's not just Uhuru Kenyatta alone, the former president. You remember the issues like when they're importing maize, there's always that window when they import duty-free maize. Ask yourself, who imports that duty-free maize? It's not the common mwananchi.
Okay.
There are few people who do it over and over again.
So you believe it's sustainable?
So if we avoid such things that create opportunities for the billionaires of this country to make more money at the expense of the citizens, that's where if we seal those holes, we'll be able to raise enough money. Two, there's excessive unnecessary expenditure in government that must be relooked at. We have a superly ballooned public expenditure, the recurrent expenditure. That's to a point where we end up borrowing to take care of recurrent expenditure. You realize that most of the projects, personally, I believe when you talk of infrastructure, that's one of the sectors where the Uhuru government did very well in digitization of government services. But those infrastructure projects were always marred with corruption. We talk of all those, even the irrigation issues and stuff like that, there was always corruption. So if we can have responsible leaders that can ensure that we don't waste our resources, then what we collect can comfortably take care of our budget.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to you, Mr. Oyola. And my question actually is the same. The issue is about tax compliance. And of course, even as Rigathi Gachagua makes it so clear that they want every citizen, the government is going full throttle to ensure that every citizen is compliant of tax. And my question is actually, is tax compliance what was ailing our economy generally? That if we have tax compliance in this country, then it is a remedy to our ailing economy. Is this the only issue? Actually, is this the only issue that is affecting us?
That is not the only issue that is affecting us. If we are to look at these people individually, and as I started by saying, if you begin assessing their net worth and you compare it with the tax returns, you'll find that almost all these people are criminals, including the deputy president himself, because the kind of worth that he has, at one instant, the government netted 200 million at random. They closed their eyes and they put their hands and found 200 million somewhere for the deputy president, where he could not explain where this one came from. And if you ask yourself, where do these people get all this amount of money that they flash around? We have of course, people can blame Baba that is mobilizing society or the community or the citizenry to begin revolting against the government. But we are forgetting that the current president started the same strategy and ran with it for years non-stop. In fact, he went to Mount Kenya using the same message 400 times. Baba's just started 3 rallies. I think he's got a number of them still to go. I want Baba to organize more rallies, because if rallies can mobilize people until they put a president in office, which if you look at it by all standards, he doesn't seem to really have a grasp of what he wants to do there. Because up to now, it's around 120 days. We cannot pinpoint one project that is successful, except maybe Hustler Fund, which I don't know whether it is successful or not, because we have not yet known how many businesses it has started. We don't know. Tax evasion is illegal. Let me make a correction on what I said. Tax evasion is criminal. It is illegal. Tax avoidance is not illegal.
Exemption.
It is. You see, tax evasion. It is when you fail to submit tax documents for the purposes of taxation. But tax avoidance is exploiting the loopholes within the system to avoid paying tax. For example, what NCBA did, they used the normal law, and the collecting agency, the KRA exempted them from paying that tax. They are not criminal. They are not. They actually used the law to get to that need.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
I want us to wrap this issue about tax, even as we delve into another issue, still on politics. Mr. Naibei, what do you think about tax compliance? Is it the only way through which we can develop our country? And what about other issues like corruption? Because there are issues that, of course, are still alive with us. We no longer talk about it, and we are talking about tax evasion. What do you think?
I believe that if Kenyans pay taxes faithfully, I think we would be in a different position. We may not have found ourselves in the debt crisis that we are in, but the elephant in the room is also corruption. And even if we are to collect, because I have heard, is it the president or the deputy say that they are targeting to be collecting around 5 trillion in taxes by 2027. Currently, we collect up to 2 trillion, if I'm not wrong. So if that one is to be realized, and if we are not going to seal corruption loopholes, we are still going to find ourselves in problems. But if we are to crack down on tax evaders and those who are running away from paying taxes, at the same time we need to seal the loopholes that are within the government system where we lose these funds. With that, I think we can be self-sufficient as a nation. And I just wanted again to say something about political rallies that my brother is really advocating for. There is no economic justification for having the opposition hold so many political rallies as a reaction to the situation that we are in. There is a way Raila Odinga can still hold this government accountable without mobilizing communities to revolt against government, to refuse to pay taxes or to refuse to pay loans. He can still use parliament because there has been a proposal of creating an office of opposition in parliament. He can also mobilize parliamentarians even without him being there to hold government accountable. Very soon, if these rallies are allowed in the manner that they are coming, we might see violence, because in the last, I think the 2 rallies that we've seen, the major ones in Kamukunji and Jacaranda, we've not seen violence. We've seen peaceful rallies where people come, they talk, they consult, and they go away. But I'm worried that if the trend continues where the opposition is now saying we don't recognize this government, it is illegitimate, we might see violence, and very soon we will see businesses being banned, shops being vandalized, etc. So I don't think that these political rallies are economically beneficial. Yes.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Naibei. Well, I want us to also talk about an issue that actually is with us on political issues, and that is about an issue when an issue that Raila raised while was in Abuja, Nigeria, in leadership conferences, proposing, I think, the use of technology on our electoral system, raising questions on the centralization of election management. There is two questions asking, do we need one big electoral body to manage our elections, or should the management be devolved to states, regions, or counties, as is the case of the United States? The second question was, should parties be allowed to second their members to the electoral management bodies? Let me get your views on these two pertinent questions that actually Raila Odinga raised concerning the electoral injustice in the country, as he calls it. I don't know what you think. I'll start with you, Mr. Oyola.
Well, I want to agree with what he proposed, that it is true that we have experimented manual voting, which has really not worked successfully. In fact, at the peak of it, 2007, it brought a lot of bloodshed. Besides other years, that there was a problem in 92, there was a problem in 97, though it was selected regions. We have tried with technology, and it is clearly, it has also not met our expectations, definitely, because by virtue of the Supreme Court annulling the election of 2007 and 17, it means that it has a problem. I agree with the proposal if we take the route of the United States, so that if there is a presidential contest in a particular county, hiyo tu ndio wanafanya research, wanaangalia kama kuna problem. Then every pressure inakuja hapa Nairobi hapa Bomas. That now there is a lot of centralized problem. And if there is a grenade there, now we don't have a president. We need to, I think it is a good idea. Of course it needs to be panel beaten here and there. One thing we have to accept is that Kenya is still a growing democracy. Even America, with its maturity of democracy over 200 years, it still has particular challenges within its own system. In fact, Donald Trump cried that they stole his elections. You remember Joe Biden beat him with almost 8 million, although he still cries that he was stolen. But Joe Biden chapped him. 8 million flat. Because Joe Biden got around 80 million something, Trump got around 70 something million. And therefore, the proposal that Baba is bringing is a good thing for debate. You know, I love people bring ideas for debate, but I will still insist, we need more rallies, not for any other thing, but we need more rallies to act as a deterrent. Let me tell you, my brother Kwach, the kind of psyche that we have with the current government. Ukiongea na any of them, talk to any of them, we beat an MP either in Azimio or even in Kenya Kwanza. Bana watu unaenda pale, they just want to make money. I'm telling you, these people have not gone there to serve you. Everybody ameenda pale na mentality, after by the time nimemaliza term yangu, niko na apartment, niko na V8, na niko na whatever things. Nobody has gone away with the heart that you want to serve people. But one thing I would advocate, that even though we are having rallies and all those kind of things, I would suggest that we still give the government time to put systems in place. Because they still don't have their own systems that really can make them execute their values. But the reality of the matter is, a government is never absent. Only politicians exist. But government officers are always still there. And therefore, there is still also no excuse that this walikuwa ni watu wa uhuru, so we have not been able to work. No. Government officers are always in office 24/7 until their retirement age.
Mr. Dwayne, what do you make of these issues that actually Raila is raising? Number one, we need to decentralize or devolve elections. And then number two, about having members of parties in the electoral commission.
I think on the issue, I'll start with the issue of the parties seconding members. We once had the IPPG. It never worked. We have a constitution, a very progressive constitution, that Raila prides himself for having brought to us. Actually, they say, were it not for him, we wouldn't be having a constitution. Just like some people say that were it not for some people who fought for independence, we would still be colonized. What am I saying? We have a constitution, a very progressive one. Unless and until we learn to trust that constitution, unless and until we become sportsmen. Elections are like a sport. We only want one president. But as long as Raila Odinga believes that elections can only be fair when he wins, even if we decentralize to the world level, he will still not accept. He he prided himself in having faith in the law. He went to the Supreme Court in 2017. It annulled the election. It was okay. In 2022, it ruled otherwise. It became a problem. For me, I just want us to follow the Constitution. Let IEBC commissioners be appointed through an independent process that constitutionally compliant. For the devolution of elections, it's a good idea. But for me, the problem is not the IEBC. The problem is us and especially the politicians. Until we learn to trust our systems and have faith in them and accept that we can never be perfect and accept to grow, learn from our mistakes, and come together after every election to correct our mistakes, we will never solve our problems.
Mr. Dabe, let me get your 2 cents on this.
Let me say that the proposals Raila is giving right now are proposals that are already anchored in law. Why do I say so? In around 2016, I think I was present in a certain meeting when the Maina Kiai case was being discussed and mooted by the likes of Advocate Willis Otieno, Professor Sianya and the team. And the point was, why don't we have an electoral process where the presidential election result at the constituency level is final? They went to court, to the High Court, and the High Court gave a declaration that the results as announced by the returning officer at the constituency level are final. They cannot be altered. To me, that one amounted to decentralization of the entire management process of the election, because it means what the chairman at the national level has to do is to add the figures. So when the case progressed to the Court of Appeal and eventually to the Supreme Court, the final verdict was that it is even at the polling station, not the constituency level. So the results as at the polling station are final. And if they are final, what happens at the constituency level? They are tallied. The constituency returning officer announces them. And what the chairman does at the national office is a ceremonial exercise, which by the time he even announces the results, most Kenyans have the results. So I believe that our electoral system is one of the best in Africa, if not the best. Given that we have fought for this system from 2010, and if you look at the cases that went to court between 2016 and 2017 regarding this electoral process and even ensuring that technology is embedded in law. And this was the effort of Raila Odinga. So for him to say that we should rethink technology at this stage again, I think we are going back where we have come from.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Actually, my director informs me that our time is over, and I'd love to give you a chance, maybe for your final words, maybe even as we, as we close. Let me start with you, Mr. Oyola.
My final shot is that we ask the government to push on people who have not paid tax, so that everyone can pay tax, because we are all equal under the law, and we expect everybody else to pay taxes. On opposition rallies, I would still encourage Baba to mobilize more rallies, make it even 3 times a day, so that we can put the government in check. Remember, the government wanted a vibrant opposition. That was the statement. Well, now, bring more rallies so that we can be able to make this happen. On proposal about electoral system that we might change, I love the debate. We should look at it. We are still developing. We are not yet perfect. I expect that we need more changes, and with time, we will be perfect.
Thank you so much, Mr. Odwe.
On the rallies, I will actually make an appeal to the Right Honorable Prime Minister. He has a party, they have a strong opposition should be legislative. Governments should be run administratively. I would request the Right Honorable Prime Minister to have a shadow cabinet that can be able to produce alternative policies, and then encourage his members of parliament to work in parliament, not to wait until they're in Jakarta for them to shout. We are not governed in churches, in rallies, and by roadside declarations. I request, why do we elect members of parliament if Raila Odinga is the one who is going to supervise the government, to oversight the government? So I request them, please do your job as enshrined in the Constitution. You have a right to picket and assemble, but let's focus on what the Constitution says, because those are the laws that govern us. On the issue of the taxes, I request the government to ensure that, 1, everyone pays taxes. 2, corruption is killed completely. Once we manage to do that, and with things like the Hustler Fund, we'll be able to open the tax base. The high net worth individuals will pay taxes, and we'll be able to sustain ourselves with minimum borrowing.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Nabi.
My parting shot would be let government concentrate on performing its role, discharge its function. There is a lot that the government is supposed to be doing right now, other than concentrating on the opposition and responding to them and talking about them. Because a mere rally held at Jacaranda or somewhere should not be a subject of debate for the entire month, because the president and the deputy president are giving it the limelight.
Yes.
There is a lot to be done. Let the opposition do their work without inciting Kenyans to fight or to vandalize property, and let government do that which we elected them to do.
Thank you so much. On behalf of every person who has made this a success, I want to wish you a very good night, and thank you so much. My name is Eugene Ojienkwach, and this is The Insight. Join us every Friday as we get to delve into a deliberate discourse for you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. A good night.
Nakukaribisha tena katika makao makuu yako katika ulimwengu wa michezo.
Yoga is not a sport. Yoga is actually a way of life.
Ukiona